Morning. Interesting things happening on YouTube today. Let's see if a couple of people will pop in. Zero. All right, well, we got somebody. Good morning. Bit early, maybe for some people. How are you doing? Four people. Excellent. How are you all doing this morning? Hey, Beth, Ozzy, Hillbilly Honky. Okay, you've been busy, buddy, putting out videos. We got good. Okay. So I was kind of took the day off a little bit, but then I was talking with Adrian and I ran through kind of some more theories. And hey, Jay Sir Birdie, what's up? What's up? So this is my working theory. And my working theory is that the RCMP knew from the very onset what the problem was, like right from the beginning. As soon as they got the 911 call at 10:01, I'm going to mirror this right now on DCM. What is DCM? But I appreciate that. I don't understand what DCM is. I'm just too technologically defunct. My channel was down apparently for a while today. I don't know. Other people were having problems with their channels. That was kind of interesting. I don't know if anybody, Hillbilly, did you have problems with your channel? Somebody messaged me and told me there was no videos on my channel all of a sudden, just gone, but they apparently reappeared. So I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Now I know. DCM. You sent pictures you've never seen before to Concan. All right. Well, I didn't get them, so I didn't speak to her today. Hopefully she's doing well. And I'll have a look at those, I guess. Or feel free to send them to me if you want, or I'll get them from her later, whatever works out best. Okay, so this is my working theory. My working theory is that the RCMP were aware from the very, very beginning. Why do I say this? I say this for a variety of reasons. I say this for the fact that Mr. Wortman's own father had informed them about threats on his own life with firearms, as recommended by the uncle back at least 10 years ago, he said. We had a claim also by the father that Mr. Wortman had pulled a shotgun on a burglar. I haven't had any substantiation of that or seen any of that, but I'd be very curious. The Halifax Police Department apparently did respond. This was at the denture clinic, and again, that was about 10 years ago. So we have those incidents. And what's resurfaced in the media, we had the 2001 conviction for assault. We had this new claim that's come forward, which I'd like to go through that article, of the neighbor, former neighbor, of course, who's now out of Nova Scotia territory, so in Ontario, who claimed that Mr. Wortman was a psychopath, reported him to the RCMP for beating up the common law girlfriend. The weapons were reported equally in that to the RCMP at the time. That was 2013. So I'm going to play a little clip for you. I think this is probably why Mr. Leather got removed. The RCMP really have bungled this badly, and really are just absolutely losing Canadians' trust if anybody is bothering to even go through this at all. Okay, so I'm going to play this clip. This is Mr. Leather, former, or the superintendent, not former superintendent, the first superintendent that we encountered in this story.
No, he was not.
I don't know if that's clear enough. I've tried boosting the volume. Let's try this one.
No, he was not.
Now, if you didn't catch that, that is Mr. Leather, Superintendent Leather, saying that Mr. Wortman was not known to police at the time. That is utter horseshit. Clearly, out and out lie, and amongst a bevy of lies. So let's go through some other things here. Now, this is my working theory. The RCMP get the call. They're aware of Mr. Wortman, weapons complaints. RCMP cruiser from Daniel Walker said that the RCMP were aware of the cruiser, never did anything about it. Just told him, please don't drive it on the road type thing. So they were aware of Mr. Wortman and his threats that he had made against a multitude of people, responded to, had done nothing about. We're aware of the weapons. We're aware of the cruisers. We're aware of everything. So they get the call at 10:01. 10:01. Gunshots fired. Okay, Portapique Beach Road. Now I think RCMP Bible Hill probably would be the closest detachment. And they start to have a little bit of a shit. And they're like, oh, okay, there's problems. Gunshots. All right. So now we're going to respond to that. They respond to it by 10:26. By 10:26, they almost immediately, by their own words, encounter an individual who is walking down the street with a female, and the male has been shot. The male says to the RCMP person who had responded, I have been shot by a man in a cruiser, a police cruiser. So they know right away it's a man with a police cruiser and that he has guns. So who could that possibly be? That would be Mr. Wortman. So what do? 10:26. They drive a little bit further. According to RCMP and CBC, multitude of press outlets, approximately 5 minutes later, they start encountering a whole shit pile of bodies on the road. Lots of them. So now we're up to, let's just give it 10:35. 10:35, right? So if we look at their tweet line at this point in time, what happens? Well, it's full-on damage control. This is what this is about. Damage control from the onset. Mr. Wortman, here we have the time. Now this time is archive time, so archive time is off by 4 hours. So an hour later, after encountering bodies, after knowing it's a cruiser, after pretty much narrowing down the suspect list, even according to the RCMP, he was high on the suspect list right away. I think that's a no-brainer. I really think that's a no-brainer. Man with the cruiser, guns, threats, shootings. Okay, it's probably going to be Mr. Wortman. We don't have a lot of people on this road that we're talking about here. Pretty crazy. What do? An hour later, they say, oh, by the way, we're responding to a weapons complaint. Not the fact that we found bodies an hour ago. Not the fact that we know this man has a cruiser. No, we're going to go on to Twitter Twitter, very intentional because we need the plausible deniability. So if later we come back, if we can't bury this story right away, we can say, well, you know what? We just tried something new. Stupid us. Sorry about that. We didn't use the emergency alert. Okay. So Mr. Wortman is running around and he's shooting and he's burning buildings, lots of buildings with gas cans. So in a cruiser, don't think that this is too far stretch to say that, he's driving up and down the road. No, it's not a far stretch at all. Let's see if we can find a picture of the did I snag at that? I hope I did. I probably did, but it was just not a very good picture. I wish I had things at my fingertips. Okay, so here we go. These are the locations where the incidents occurred at. So as we can see, they're over a wide area, 5 kilometers, I believe. So he's driving around with gas cans, shooting in the cruiser, burning up houses, chasing people down in the forest, and nobody notices. Why do they not notice? Well, I would think, my theory is that the RCMP at this point were ordered to go and set up a roadblock at the end of the road and wait until they had their fancy dancy armored personnel carrier come in, because they were afraid of Mr. Wortman and they didn't know what to do. Nobody could identify necessarily who he was. This is at nighttime. So they're going to wait. And they waited for hours, just like Mr. Ellison said, 4 a.m. till he was evacuated out of there. So by 4 a.m., of course, Mr. Wortman has completed a great deal of mayhem. Now, the RCMP want you to believe that the first gunshots occurred at 10:01 and he was out of there by 10:35. That is their claim. Looking at this map, knowing what you know, as in 3 locations. In fact, I think it may even be 4, because it's Mr. Wortman's properties, the Blair's property. Who are the other 2? We hear 3 in the media, but I think it's actually 4. There's a list here. And there's a reason why I have these other people, because they needed to use DNA to identify them. The balls, who is it here? The Glenchkin, I don't want to mispronounce that. Gulenchin, Don and Frank, and John Zoll, Elizabeth Jane Thomas, the Blair's house, and Mr. Wortman's house. So 4 houses. He's lighting these on fire. This is going to take exorbitant amounts of time. You're going to have to subdue people, tie them up, because in some cases he's burning these people to death. He's not just shooting them. And he's chasing Mr. Ellison in the woods. 34 minutes. And he's driving out through a field. When the claim is made in the media about the gunman driving through the field is absolute and utter horseshit. Total horseshit. What they say, the RCMP very carefully are choosing their words, is a witness believes, so already we have doubt sown, believes that in hindsight, they saw a vehicle. A vehicle. Now, if we look at the definition of vehicle, because this is why they're using that word very carefully, a vehicle is something to transport. A space shuttle is a vehicle. A bus is a vehicle. A merry-go-round is essentially a type of vehicle. And what drives through fields? Not cop cars. They don't drive through fields. What does drive through fields is trucks. But they've already sown the doubt that even what they're saying is probably not true. Could be not. Who knows? Who knows if the vehicle was driving through the field? Who knows about the time exactly? But the RCMP are going to go and say the witness who believes that they saw a vehicle, that suddenly changes into, according to RCMP interpretation, the gunman left at 11:30 or 10:35. 10:35. Bullshit. No way is he doing all of this in 34 minutes. No effing way. But that's because then they can say, well, you know, we just missed him. He got out of there before we could do anything. But Mr. Ellison specifically says that he heard gunshots and explosions. For how long? How long? While he was hiding in the forest, suffering from hypothermia. How long did he hear gunshots? For hours. Which makes sense. That totally makes sense. Recent projects. Here we go. No, I don't want to save this. Go away. So it was full damage control right from the onset. Don't use the emergency broadcast. Don't. Let's use the Twitter, but it goes further. It goes further, and it goes further much, sadly, much further. Now, let's go to some of these types of articles, like this. Who was called to help and who was not? The police resources behind the Nova Scotia shootings. Municipal police forces closest to Portapique, Truro and Amherst. The city police of Truro and Amherst were asked not to respond directly. Does this make sense? You read further, and it says that they bring in, where is it here? They bring in Fredericton police from 360 or 330 kilometers away, over 3 hours away. They bring them in. They bring in New Brunswick RCMP from a different province because they want to keep it in-house. They want to keep this all under wraps. People in Truro and Amherst may have knowledge of who Mr. Wortman was. They wanted direct control over this fully. They didn't want anybody else becoming involved. That includes the Halifax Police Department. Don't go in. This is according to somebody in the Halifax Police Department, that they were ordered not to even shoot him. Okay? Does this make sense? Does this make sense to you? Meanwhile, you've got only the people, if you wake up, put yourself in the shoes of the people there. Let's just say you woke up at, 4 o'clock. Let's 4 a.m. 4 a.m. And you go to their Twitter feed, which nobody uses, of course, right? You go to their Twitter feed, 4 a.m., you're going to look at it, and you're going to see just this. We're responding to a firearms complaint. Okay, no big deal. Meanwhile, they've known about bodies since 10/26. They've known about a cruiser since 10/26. They're engaged in what Leather described at some point during the evening an exchange of gunfire. So he actually had some shooting back and forth at the police. I don't know how he's doing that if he's out of there at 10:35. And of course, they're guaranteeing you this by you showing you like great, wonderful photos like this. Where is it? Here you go. Believe us, we're so technologically advanced. We have a rectangular cropped photo of something driving with no timestamp. But believe us, we're telling you it's 11:12 and it's in Debert. You don't have an address there. You don't have a timestamp there, even though they refer to it. And that was what CBC edited out. Also, one of the things that they edited out from the live stream that I streamed simultaneously disappeared, the 1 minute segment where they said, oh, there was a timestamp on the video. There's no timestamp on this video. You can't see anything. I don't know what the hell that is. Could be a taxi cab. What is this? So this is their evidence. This and the fact that somebody may have seen a vehicle driving through a field. And frankly, if people are shooting and there's fires and I have a truck, I'll tell you, one of my options might be to go out and get in my truck and drive through a field. So is that somebody just running away? Yeah, probably. Meanwhile, he does have all this time. So now we're going on, and they're just trying to keep this cat in the bag as much as possible. Right? So the first time that they're going to tell anybody, even though they knew, let's say 10:35, that they had dead bodies on their hands. There was a person that was sent right away to the, where is it? Here it is. The East Hants Health Center. East Hants Health Center, where they immediately clammed up. I love this. Hospital staff have been reluctant to talk about what happened, i.e., nobody said fucking boo. But we do know that one person got sent there. One person, for sure. And I frankly think that that was the person who was initially shot. No name. We don't know who the hell that was. But that's because we need to protect privacy. I'm sure probably this person actually wants to say something, but they've probably been intimidated by the police. Please don't do that. You're going to jeopardize an investigation. This is really important to us. And if you go any further, well, frankly, we're probably going to charge you with obstruction. Okay. So now, 4 a.m., you wake up, you still don't see this. All right. Well, let's go to 8:02. Now they're going to tell you. How long has passed? How long has passed? 10:01 till 8:02. 9 hours, and now they will inform you that there has been a shooting. 9 hours later. Real great information sharing going on here. Just like they brought in the other police. Okay, so we already know that they know who it was. How long does that take them? Now we're up to 9 o'clock almost. 9 o'clock before they're going to tell you who it is. Still thinking he's in Portapique. Still thinking he's in Portapique the whole time. Okay, he moves on. Now what happens? Oh, here we are. It's 10:04. What happens between his Portapique shootings and 10:04? He went to the friend's house and he knocked on the door. Do you remember? Where's that? And he knocks on the door. First he goes and kills the corrections officers, but they have no idea about that. They have no idea. They still think he's in Portapique. They're still searching around in their armored vehicle, driving around, and he's already gone. by this point. He left at some point, probably, I'm going to say earlier in the morning, maybe 7, 8. They let him out, by the way. Let him out. You have to remember that they have roadblocks. Where's that? Heavily locked down. Where is that? Bollocks. Here. National Post. Heavily locked down. Notably, we learned that the RCMP set up and focused their investigation, RCMP alone. No Truro, no Amherst. No, you can't help us. We got to bring in people from New Brunswick. Large perimeter area around 1026. Blockades. So he got out. Multiple blockades. After they discovered 13 victims right away, I'm sure that anyone could imagine what the scene looked like. Multiple victims, multiple structure fires. Feel sorry for us. We were fucked. What could we do? Well, you could tell the truth. You could tell the truth right away using the emergency alert. But if you use the emergency alert, it's going to come out that you didn't deal with the problem to begin with, i.e., multiple complaints of guns, multiple complaints of assaults, multiple claims of abuse and of the wife, multiple the father, the shotgun getting pulled in Halifax, guns being listed by all kinds of people, threats to multiple people, so much so that the 3 individuals who came with the woman said they wouldn't even go and report it. And she was so afraid she had to move. Move from Nova Scotia to Ontario. But the RCMP, you know what? Let's see. What was it again? Tell us, Superintendent.
No, he was not.
Oh, he wasn't known. We didn't know who the hell that was. We never heard of him. What are you talking about? Everybody knew that he was driving cop cars. I love that sentence. The fucking cognitive disconnect that's going on with people. The same sentence they'll say, it was widely known that he had police cars, but we had no idea. We're your police force. Trust us. Trust us, because we just don't know anything. So as soon as somebody phones and says, there's a guy rapping on my door, he's a friend of mine, he's got a gun, he seems really out of sorts, now all of a sudden, what happens to the Twitter line? Oh, here we go. 1021, right? First time you're going to hear about the car right here, right? With that, 1017. Okay. And what time was the call to, let's see, detailed timeline. Detailed timeline. CBC, Nova Scotia. Detailed timeline. There we go. Well, let's try global. Look at all these. Look at all these places. You're going to tell me you don't notice cop car driving up and down the road, guys carrying around gas cans? Oh, well, I don't know what that is. That must just be Officer Bill. Don't worry about him. Or maybe you weren't there. Maybe you were at the end of the road. You know, like they like to clip out. You see here? See here? This is what the RCMP did too. Because your brain is going to look at this picture and you're going to be like, well, there's only one way out. How did this guy get out of there? Oh, that's right. They let him out! They didn't just let him out once. Once. Oh no. Wide area. Heavily locked down. Says Superintendent, whatever his name is. All right, so moving along. Here we go. Up here. Where's he reported? This one doesn't have it. That's interesting. Very interesting. They don't have it in here. He goes to the friend's house. It's the CBC one that has it. He bangs on the door. Is it this one? That's fucking video. Balls. Oh, that's fucking blah, blah. Where is it? It's got to be in my history. Library. History. No, it's not this one. Where is it? CBC. Why is that not here? Interesting. Let's see. Let's try Friend's house. Friend's house. 911. Nova Scotia. Shooting. But that's when they start to tell you a little bit more truth. Why is it not here? CBC. Okay. This is it. Okay. So they start getting phone calls. I don't know why it doesn't have it on here. The phone calls, but the phone calls come from the friends, and then the RCMP realized he's no longer in Portapique. You see, you never fucking hear about the fact that he's out of Portapique until what time? Oh, that would be right. 10:20. This is an hour before he dies. This is how organized that they are. They don't know about the people who have been burned up and killed, the people at the... they haven't put that together. They're still hunting around in Portapique. It's only when the friend phones and says, he's banging on my door and he wants to come inside and I don't want to let him in, that they tweet out, oh, by the way, he's out of Portapique. So, you know, just be on the watch for him because we don't know where he's at. We don't know what he's doing. This is about the same time that they go over and open fire on another officer of theirs. Another officer of theirs, right? You can't post links. Okay, sorry. I'll fix that in a minute. They don't even know who the hell they're shooting at because you've got officers from all over the place New Brunswick RCMP, because you don't want people to know your shit. So you're going to bury it by bringing in people from New Brunswick who clearly have no idea who Mr. Wortman is. You've got soldiers coming in. You've got forestry services coming in. You don't have the police departments right next to you, right next to Portapique, coming in and helping. No, we don't need your help here. We're okay. We use Twitter. We're right on top of it. Right on top of it. Okay, so I found this article today, just as I was kind of rooting around. Very interesting article. I'm going to try my level best to read well here. I'll try and promote you here, Hillbilly. If I see any kind of editing or kicking comments or whatever, please don't do that. I really, really have a serious problem with people editing other people's stuff. So that's the only thing I ask. Here we go. Okay. Hopefully I won't ask. All right. Where are you here, Hillbilly? You can have a wrench. Okay. Please do not edit people's stuff or ban them or do any stuff. Please. Okay. So this article, very good article. Thank you. Some people are coming out and starting to talk a little bit. Nova Scotia shooting and the mistakes the RCMP have made. I'm going to try and get in contact with some of these journalists because thank you, Hillbilly. There's some good journalists out there and they want stuff, and there's obviously a crew of all of us over here working on it. We can share what details we've come across with these people and maybe we can get some more truth coming out. New details about the Nova Scotia shooting are raising several troubling questions and the response by the RCMP or of the RCMP. This story was updated May 14th to include new comment from the RCMP. Ooh, okay, interesting. Here we go. You see, it's always a game of catch up. Oh, somebody just reported that he's out of the... Okay, better tweet out that he's around. Better let him know that he's in a car. We've known about it for 10 hours. Previously unreported details about the Nova Scotia mass shooting last month are raising serious questions about the way the RCMP handled the nightmarish onslaught. Oh, but we want your trust. It's very valuable to us. Hogwash. While Nova Scotians grieve their 22 dead, including an RCMP officer, this again, sorry to interrupt, and this was why you were seeing the creation of the hero, the RCMP hero. Very, very important, because if we have something, you can't attack us. It's cognitive, it's psychological warfare, what they're doing there by saying, they have the day of the work day or whatever. So then they were like, oh yes, we have to respect all first responders, just like Heidi Stevenson, we've lost one of our own. We're going to have the funeral procession. Nobody even knows that their own relatives are dead, but they're having gigantic funeral processions. They're having Twitter feeds filled with pictures of Mounties and blue ribbons and all this other nonsense. And Clinton Ellison doesn't even have his phone, so his own relatives can contact him. Please. Thank you for dumping stuff in there. I appreciate it to help Tara out. Tara needs help, but good things are coming. We'll get an update from her at some point here. So thank you everybody who's helping out Tara's stuff. So that's why you have the creation of the hero, right? Because you don't have the people in Portapique Beach Road or other residents from other areas coming forward like a normal incident and saying, you know, the RCMP were here for us. They really helped us. They saved us. They don't have that. So what they do is they create a hero, right? Are you following what I'm saying? Because if they save you, you're going to go and talk about it. In fact, the RCMP will give you a friendly nudge. Please go and talk to the press. Tell them what a good job we've done, how trustworthy we are. No. Nobody could do that, so they had to use Heidi Stevenson. But law enforcement officers familiar with the details have not been made public, or with details that have not been made public, are wondering aloud if at least some of the shooting deaths could have been prevented. Really? Really? Here are 6 key questions. There's excellent new data in here. And this stuff, do you notice how there's pictures coming out a month later which verify exactly what we said day one about how he had the full Montana's bar in his house, right? I'm not gloating. What I'm saying is it's just simple research that all of us here have been doing, right? And the RCMP don't tell you shit. What they do is they fight in court to keep it down. Please don't tell anybody about our searches. We don't want anybody to know about that. That would be very bad. The man is dead. And the journalist from Frank Magazine said at the very first interview, well, why do you need to keep details private? Because the person you're investigating, they're not going to have a trial. They're dead. So you can share that. You don't need the pretty bow on it, I think was how he handled that. And they're like, they shut him down. That was it. He couldn't ask any more questions after that. And I've never seen him appear in any press conference since. A question from him. He's gone. Because he challenged them. You can't do that. This was an RCMP matter, a federal matter, all from the get-go, and they weren't going to let anybody else piss in their yard. Did the RCMP properly investigate reports the killer assaulted his partner and had illegal guns? The violence began when the killer, 51-year-old denturist, went into a murderous rage after an argument with common-law wife with a video over a video call he made with a female friend. This is new details. These are good details in here. Some good stuff. I archived this. I suggest people, go and read it for themselves, share it around with your friends. According to a police source briefed on the matter, but not authorized to discuss it. Thank you, sir, for being the policemen that are coming forward, even if they want to remain anonymous. I get it. The thin blue line, who are coming forward and sharing shit. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of all Canadians. The killer, a heavy drinker with a history of violence and an obsession with the RCMP, was at a gathering with his partner at another home in nearby Portapique, a tiny seaside community about 44 kilometers down the Bay of Fundy from the road from the town of Truro, is a sparsely populated coastal area of Nova Scotia. They left after arguing about the call. Okay, so here we go. We got the argument, but resolved the matter. At which point the killer's common-law wife went to bed. The source is briefed in the matter says. He later woke up, assaulted her, put her in handcuffs. See, there's going to be lots of details that all of you are going to be rah-rahing, cheer, and big pats on backs to everybody here for doing this research, because you're going to hear stuff we've been saying for a long time. Dragged her into a replica RCMP Ford Taurus. Again, that one I have a question about, but whatever. Let's just read the article. one of several replica police cars he kept. He shot at her twice to get her to move. He put her in the back seat of the vehicle along with some, what? What were we saying? Containers of gasoline. Okay? Because you can't go running around just like, I'm sure you can't see that, but, I'm lighting my house on fire. I can't do it. It's going to take me a long time. Oh, lots of gasoline, say the RCMP with their newest update. Thanks for telling us stuff we already knew. When he went back to the house, she slipped the cuff off her wrist and escaped it through the car through the sliding plexiglass divider between the front and back seats. She fled into the woods and hid until morning. Two sources briefed in the investigation believe that the killer may have been looking for her when she went to the home of Greg and Jamie Blair, who he murdered, apparently while their children, 10 and 12, were in the home. Whether he planned the rampage or not, the killer appears to be prepared for one. He had replica RCMP vehicles and either an actual RCMP uniform or a convincing replica. Okay, so this one we already know is, in fact, uniforms, plural, uniforms. How did he get them? Again, you can't have them. You can't, not even an RCMP officer who's retired can have them. They have to turn it all in. They have a checklist. So how did he get them? And the RCMP vehicles, I was talking, I know I've seen reference to the fact that there's more than one that was deckled out. So just to put you on notice about that one, I think you're going to maybe hear something about that, maybe somewhere down the line. Which he wore as he went in on his killing spree. Okay, so she escapes into the woods and hides out. She doesn't get hypothermia, and the RCMP want to keep her quiet. First person I would depose right away in discovery. RCMP will eventually be asked to explain how the killer, who had a history of violence, managed to get a hold of illegal guns, replica police cars, and uniforms, this is a misprint, without raising red flags to the force, who had apparently been advised that he was a threat. A former neighbor of the Portapique told the RCMP that the killer, who she considered a psychopath, repeatedly assaulted his common-law wife, who lived in fear of him. She told the RCMP that he illegally had guns. She told the Halifax Examiner and the Canadian Press. So did Wortman's dad. The RCMP said that the killer did not have a license to own firearms. Remember, this is the RCMP, the same RCMP who runs the federal firearms program. Frankly, I don't know why we're pulling guns, because these people are idiots. They don't even know who has a gun license or not. Likely. Few days later, they're able to tell you it's likely that he didn't have a firearms license. Wow, I just found out I can type Wortman into my handy dandy firearms registration program. Oh, he doesn't have a gun license. That took all of about 3 seconds. But they didn't want to tell you that. But used 2 semi-automatic handguns and 2 semi-automatic rifles in his murderous rampage. The guns have changed. They always change. The amounts of guns. I've seen this before. This was the same thing at the Quebec Mosque nonsense. Same thing here. Quebec Mosque nonsense. RCMP. Go back and look at other cases like this. You're going to find where the RCMP are handling stuff. You're going to find the exact same shit happening. Only one of the weapons was obtained in Canada, police say. They have not identified the weapons. There you go. This is your open, transparent police force investigating a dead person. Of course, they're going to say this is, I think, a bit of a misnomer again. Obtained in Canada. They say that the weapons are from Canada. Well, yeah, most weapons aren't produced in Canada, so we know that. And I would say, watch out. We've already had the addition of now one semi-automatic rifle. And again, this would be why the autopsies haven't come out. I think you're going to find RCMP issue weapons. The neighbor, 62-year-old Canadian Forces veteran Brenda Forbes, has said that although 3 people witnessed one assault on his common law wife, and she reported it to the RCMP, officers told her they could not act without the help of witnesses who were unwilling to help. How many complaints has he already had by this point? He's had the conviction. This is 2013, so he's had the conviction in 2001. He's had the report from the father about the threats, which was also based on advice from a former RCMP officer, his brother, his uncle, Wortman's uncle. How many times do these people need to be told? How many times? But they're going to say to you, sit there and say, we don't know. Forbes believed the RCMP should have investigated the report of illegal guns. Quote, if you tell them he may have illegal weapons, you should not go and check it out, she said to the Canadian press. Should you not go and check it out? Of course. This is the same exact line, almost verbatim, that the father said. Forbes and her partner eventually left Portapique because of fear of the killer. Outrageous. The RCMP may have already had a file on the killer because of the threats made 10 years ago, according to the interview with the father in Halifax Frank magazine. Again, we talked about this for a long time. The killer father told Frank an officer went to Portapique to talk to him after he threatened to go to Moncton to kill his parents. His father also said they beat him badly during a family trip to Cuba, but they didn't report it to authorities. The piece that I would also add in here on this was there was a follow-up phone call with the RCMP after they responded to the threats call by the father, and he followed up numerous times with numerous phone calls. Did you go and talk to him? Did you go and talk to him? Did you go and talk to him? And he mentioned the weapons here too. Did you go and talk to him? Finally, they answered him, yes, we did go and talk to him. And he said, no, I didn't threaten you, and no, I don't have any guns, so there's nothing we can do. And in 2002, the killer pleaded guilty to a 2001 assault in Dartmouth. He received a sentence of 9 months probation of owning a firearm. Why is not wanting to play?
No, he was not.
No, he was not. Really? Really? Fucking lying! Fucking lying shitbags! Don't do that! At a news conference April 19th, Chief Superintendent Chris Leather, the criminal operations officer, appeared not to have been aware of the killer's violent history of violence. Asked if the killer was known to police, Leather said, it's early and I'm not aware of that. Bullshit. Bullshit on that. Let's play it again. What did he say?
No, he was not.
No, he was not, was the answer. It's a definitive no, we didn't know who he was. It's just some random guy. The RCMP said Thursday that they are not going to look. They're not looking into the gunman's previous relationships and interactions. What? What kind of investigative is that? But they're not aware of the neighbor's complaint. Bah, bah, bah. You're not aware of it. Well, apparently everybody else in Canada is aware of it, just like you weren't aware of the cars that he had that everybody else knew about, just like the firearms that everybody else knew about. But you're just not aware of anything. What are you aware of? You're not aware of anything. I wouldn't trust these people with my lunch. Honestly, they're so bloody inept. As of right now, we have not found a record of a complaint being filed with the RCMP. Then get off your ass! Don't lie. I don't deal well with liars. I really, really don't deal well with liars. I believe in the truth. I believe in a police force that is protecting its citizens, that is working together with its citizens, that wants its citizens protected. What is this? This is not protected. This is not protected. This is endangerment to protect you and your service. Sorry if I'm raising my voice. I get very, very upset because this has cost a lot of people lives, and they are totally and utterly shattered because of this nonsense, including Heidi Stevenson, who they have used. Did the RCMP wait too long before entering the crime scene? After the Blairs were murdered and the killer set their house on fire, their two children escaped the home to Lisa McCauley, a 49-year-old teacher who combined grade 3-4 grade in Debert. McCauley, a trilingual, fun-loving, moving along, was murdered outside when she went to investigate. Why is it that we're hearing about this now from unsubstantiated sources? Not unsubstantiated, but unauthorized. You're not allowed to talk about it. I'm not authorized. These kinds of lines that come out of their mouth, I'm not authorized to talk about that right now. It's fluid. It's dynamic. It's shifting. What's fluid and shifting is your story. Shifty. The children are believed to have been sheltered together in McCauley's basement and called 911, where they were connected with a civilian dispatcher at the RCMP's Operational Communications Center in Truro. These poor children. Really? Their mom's murdered out on the lawn. They're hiding inside. RCMP are just like, what can we do? Damage control. Well, we're going to say firearms complaint. Don't go in there. Careful. We need the crew. We need the fucking armored carrier at 4 a.m. When we can go in. And there were probably some good officers that went in there. And that's the one about the shooting. There was shooting going back and forth. Question, we are positive that Wortman ever killed anybody. Listen, I'm just going to go with yes. I'm not going to get into speculative stuff. What I am going to get into is the fact that the RCMP are absolutely BSing everybody and people died. Whether, beyond that, that can all come out. But let's deal with this one, right? The dishonesty, the lying, the covering up, the hiding, and how that cost lots of people's lives, because he wouldn't have gotten out of there if he wouldn't have even had this situation. Think about it. Somebody phones in and says, listen, there's a whack job, or my son is got guns, hell of a lot of guns, according to the father, hell of a lot of guns. I've seen them. He's threatened me with them. I'm getting threats via my brother. And they don't even call him back. Well, days later, after many phone calls from the father, well, yes, we did go and see him, but he just simply said it's not true. So don't worry about it. Same with the lady who had to literally leave the province because they wouldn't do anything. Oh, no, don't worry about it. And then you have to ask yourself some odd questions, which probably, I know my mind jumps all over the place, but why is it that the RCMP are able to evict, what was his name? From his own home. I forget one of the tenants' names. Not tenant. He owned the house. There was a scam, and the RCMP stepped in and literally, to the best of my knowledge, evicted him that day from his own home on Wortman's complaint. So Wortman says something, and guess what? It happens immediately, violating, to the best of my knowledge, also Landlord-Tenant Act, let alone the fact that it was even his own house. And then when Wortman takes all of his belongings, puts them into dumpsters, drives them into Dartmouth, and sells them from the parking lot for $1 an item, and the man says, "What are you doing? I just got a phone call. You're selling all my stuff now." Well, it's too bad. Well, at least can you give me the money? I mean, the guy is like clearly a very forgiving guy. No, you have to pay for the dumpsters. What are you talking about? So he starts to get upset about it, and he calls the RCMP, and the RCMP get angry with him. It's like RCMP was Mr. Wortman's thug force, but anybody else that had a problem with Mr. Wortman or was worried about things, no, that's going to be completely disregarded. That's crazy. Crazy. In all, the killer took 13 lives in Portapique and set 5 buildings and several vehicles on fire. Okay, so that's good. I know one more. I only knew of 4. Sorry, I haven't read this article completely because I just was like, oh, there's so much good stuff here. Macaulay's obituary, her family thanks the RCMP. Wow. Listen, my heart goes out to these people, and I'm not going to be critical of them at all. But really? And the anonymous 911 person who stayed on the phone with her children for 2 hours. Awesome job. And there are going to be people in here who really are stepping up and did step up. But why is the brass at the top of this covering this shit? Why are they covering it up? He had 4 cruisers. Yeah. One of them, daily driver. These are the same things we've been saying for how long? And, a clown on a computer with some good friends across the country can figure out what? More than the RCMP can? And then it's just, I think Steve said, it's 5 things at least that we have said that the RCMP then has countered with, oh yes, by the way, the gas cans was the newest one. And we're getting all kinds of funny stuff, not to be tinfoily. I don't know where my tinfoil hat is. We're getting all kinds of funny stuff. All of us. Our phones are beginning to act up weird. My fucking YouTube today gone and then suddenly back. I mean, and I had a DNS attack the other day again, and I'm like, my account got whatever. Anyways, it's not my bitching and whining because I just want the truth. So I don't care how far we got to go on this one. Let's go. I'm in. If that is accurate, police did not get to the children until an hour after the first officers arrived in Portapique. Well, what were they doing? A source with knowledge of the event says the children stayed on the phone with the dispatcher with their mother dead on the lawn outside. During the 40-kilometer ambulance ride to Colchester East Hants Center, the regional where they would have been taken at least 30 minutes, which would have taken at least 30 minutes. Okay, and this was. There was the other victim, I think the first shooting victim also went here. The timeline, the RCMP says the force received the first call at 10:01. What time did they say? What time firearms complaint? Oh, right, 11:32, an hour and a half later, after they found all the bodies. They're saying, no, it's not, and it's not dirt. This was intentional. This is very well thought out, very methodical to cover their own ass. That was all that this was about from the beginning. Wasn't like, oh, we didn't know, Twitter didn't work well, and we don't really know if he's in our system. Well, we never heard anything about police cars. We don't know if he has a firearms license. We've never heard anything over here. But if you want to see the warrants, oh, by the way, we're going to go to court on that one. You can't see warrants. We're not going to tell you about guns. Don't worry about anything here. We're doing everything just fine. Fine. We let him out of a contained area. We let this guy even be a person to begin with. Unbelievable. First officer responded to the community at 10:26. Spokeswoman for the force in Halifax did not respond to repeated questions about how long it took before officers moved to the end of Portapique Beach Road and the burning house. Where's Clinton? CBC edits that out. Fuck me.
I hid in the woods for about 4 hours, staring up the sky, freezing to death, looking for red flashing lights that never came. Never came. So hours. People were in there burning to death and dying. It took hours for a response. That's not right. That's not right at all. By the time they hauled the ambulance and the armored personnel carrier, it looked like a fortress of police. Same with the Great Village Fire Hall up there. They have more personnel than they know what to do with. Y'all standing around when people were dying? That's not right. I can get in the way, be scared, I guess. But I mean, here's your job, serve and protect. To serve and protect. Not sit back and watch while people are being killed. You shouldn't wear that uniform. If you ever got the guts to go in there and save people's lives, shouldn't wear that uniform.
Shouldn't.
I would have went in there. I went up looking for my brother. I didn't have a bulletproof vest. I never had a gun, but I went. They should have too. What I wanted to be, I never thought that what I said would not be what it would be. Like this isn't what I wanted to be. I never thought that what I said would not be what it would be. Like this isn't what I wanted to be. I never thought that what I said would not be what it would be. Like this. No turning back now. I wanna keep on the side, so let me go. No turning back now. Let me take back my life. I'd rather be all alone. No turning back now. Anywhere on my own, 'cause I can't stand. No turning back now. The very worst part of you. The very worst part of you is me. I laid there for approximately at least about 4 hours, hoping and praying that the police would come. Finally, after about 4 hours, they got me out of there with an armored vehicle.
Oh. Spokeswoman for the force did not respond to repeated questions on how long it took before officers moved to the end of Portapique Beach Road to the burning houses while people were burning to death. Do I think that this is the frontline officers? No, I think that this is orders from above. Don't go in. It is not clear whether the killer continued murdering his neighbors while police were waiting at the end of the road. Yay! Thank you. I haven't read this article yet. Thank you. We knew it. But some of the officers who were present have told others they waited too long. Really? Oh, really? Quote, they set up at the end of the road. You could still hear gunshots and explosions there. Bang, another one. Here we go. This is number two. Number two, who's saying this? He was in there. He was in there. Get out of here with this 1035. Get out of here. Oh, believe us, the photo. We've got this photo here. You know, it's got to be for sure. That's got to be him. You can tell, can't you? I mean, if this is our police force and they're either thinking that Canadians are this stupid or they're this inept, but they're not. They're not inept. They're thinking you're dumb and that they can pull this over on you. Don't worry about us. We didn't fuck up Royal. Not one apology still. Not one apology. Nothing. Zip. Zipola. But believe me, that's a police car, and don't you see the timestamp on it? It's right here. We wrote it in on our Google Maps, where you can clearly see the route that he's traveled. Where is he going? You can't tell anything. Very technologically advanced of you. This is super taxpayer dollars. Google Earth. Fantastic. And you've got no clear route here. You don't know where he's going. I don't know where he's going. I don't think the RCMP knew where he was going. They all set up at the end of the road. You could still hear explosions there, said the source, briefed in the matter. The source says some members eventually went up the road looking for the killer under their own initiative. Just like I said. There's good officers who went in and just said, fuck you guys, man. We're going to go. That's our job. We signed up for this, and we're not going to let good Canadians die. We don't care what you tell us. What they did was they were being insubordinate by doing the right thing. Do you see how messed up this is? How messed up this is. An 11:08 audio recording for an emergency medical personnel who was on scene, quote, there's a person down there with a gun. They're still looking for him. Police are stationed at the end of the road there on Highway 2 and not letting anyone down any further. That's at what time? 11:08. Oh, but believe, what is his name? I just did a video about him. Believe him when he says that, well, there was a vehicle. We think somebody saw a vehicle leaving through a field at 10:35. And, it's got to be the gunman. It just has to be. Because if it wasn't the gunman, well, then we really fucked up. Meh. And they wouldn't let the emergency medical personnel down to save people. Good job. You should be going in there with the... you shouldn't be putting their lives at risk, right? You shouldn't be putting their lives at risk. But go and take them in your cruiser or whatever your thing. Oh, but it didn't show up. It didn't show up until 4. Anytime you've got a shooter and members who are willing to help, 2 minutes seems like forever. It's okay to go in, but it's not okay to go in blind. And I understand. I really do sympathize with the police on this, in the fact that he was wearing a uniform and that he was driving this car, etc., etc. But the problem is, how did he get it to begin with? And when you first heard about it, why didn't you shut it down? You didn't. You just kept sitting around. And everybody's like, oh, okay, you know, that's not a big problem. So that raises the question, why? Why? Why did you sit around? The first car to arrive, likely a patrol car from Bible Hill. Oh, guess what? I think we were saying that, was coming to check out the shots fired call. Oh, right. Sorry, what was that? Oh, that's right. An hour later, it's a firearms complaint. Okay. Moving. In the RCMP world, on the Twitter land, to which nobody would get notified, was coming. That was great video, by the way, by Steve. I wouldn't pump it because I'm in it, so like that's just not me. But it was an awesome video, and the comments that he had in there from people were like, "Well, could you please?" Like, I had no idea. Can you use the fucking emergency thing, please? Please, the citizens are begging for it. Was out to check the shots fired call. Not unusual for the RCMP officers in rural detachments. They did not know that they were about to enter a nightmare. Quote, this is all, I'm reading this for the first time, so we're sharing the good fun here. The very first responding unit went in, and it was a fucking disaster. Oh, I like the this sounds like me. And they advised subsequent responding units. Another source briefed on the events. Okay, so they have a lot of people saying things here. This is a fantastic article. The very first car went in, and there were multiple bodies. They pulled back. They had no fucking idea who or what or how many shooters, and they advised the responding units of the bodies, and there were multiple. And that's why they were collecting in force to do a containment and a proper approach. Listen, guys, you knew that it was a guy in a cop car. It was a guy in a cop car, and he was driving up and down the road. You knew that. You knew that right from the beginning. So I don't know how you can do that. If you have to spray paint yourselves or what you got to do to make sure that, like, I'm safe, it's not me, you know, maybe, I don't know, put pylons on your head. I don't know what you got to do, but there would be some way to differentiate yourself from Mr. Wortman, I would think. But this containment thing and just keeping him in there and allowing him to run amok is not the way to deal with it. Police had to hold back emergency medical personnel and volunteer firefighters from nearby communities. I agree, you know, they shouldn't be placed at risk. But also, you know, we've got, meanwhile, 4 children hiding in Macaulay's home talking to the dispatcher in Truro. You've got them hiding in the basement. Their mom is dead on the lawn. You've got Clinton Ellison hiding out in the woods. You've got apparently this girlfriend hiding in the woods. That's suspect, but whatever. The girlfriend is suspect. I'm sorry. Quote, there was communication between the members on the scene and the telecommunications operator and the kids for them to stay fast, stay hidden, stay on the phone, and that the police would come to them and that they would be rescued, because that was the only living people that the police had any contact with at that point. God bless those kids. Thank God they survived. Thank God for the telecommunications operator who stayed on the phone with them. I mean, they must have just been absolutely traumatized. And I remember hearing a conversation with Blair's, the kid's uncle. And he said how well they were handling things and how brave they were. And I was just like, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine. Before I lose my shit, good night all. God bless. We'll keep up the good fight. Sorry about me raising my voice and stuff. It's just I'm just so upset about this all. And the very people that I grew up expecting so much from, that I was taught, these are the people. Remember, like the block watch signs in your window and stuff like that? If your trust has been violated this badly, this is the time to not play pie plate games. It is time to say, listen, we messed up. We could have handled this a lot better. And we got to fix this so it never happens again. Right? 5:30 Nova Scotia time. You know, and I still believe in the police force. I still, because I respect, there's great police officers I've met. I also don't want to feel like in this world you always have to sit there and say, yeah, but you know, there's so many. Of course there is. Of course there is. We all know that there's great police officers. That goes without saying. Just like we've all been saying, there were ones that were disobedient and went in and tried to save people. There were medical personnel that wanted to get in there and save people. There was a lady on the phone talking with those kids. Thank God. Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Like, I mean, there are some heroes here, and we got to celebrate the heroes, and we have to go after the people who simply say we did nothing wrong. We're all good here, and trust us. The stupid psychological warfare, like when they say, ask a question about, well, do you think Nova Scotians' trusts have been violated? And they respond with not answering the question point blank. They say, well, Nova Scotians' trust is very important. We've worked very hard on keeping trust with the Nova Scotians. Well, that wasn't the question. The question was, what are you going to do about the fact that you violated that? That they're now all questioning you. Are you going to do something about it? Or are you going to play pie plate games? Cover your ass. That's what they've been doing the whole time. And it was from the get-go. From the get-go. When police finally moved in, they did so cautiously with their flashlights off so they wouldn't present easy targets to the killer. Quote, it would almost be described as a war zone, said a former law enforcement source. Fires, gunshots, miniature explosions, propane tanks in garages and houses. It's dark. The only light you're going to see is whatever the police cars and whatever is in the burning houses. Okay, there we go. It's dark. It's dark. How are you going to tell police cruisers driving through a field? I don't think you can. Don't think you can. Because there's only one place really that he could drive. And I don't even know how anybody could see it. The one source says the officers believe they caught a glimpse of the killer moving between the houses as they proceeded. And leather, I don't know if they're going to talk about that in this article. Like I said, this is all, I'm unwrapping Christmas presents together with you. I don't know if they're going to talk about it, but Leather said that night there was an exchange of gunfire. Again, hero cops. Are they shooting at people they don't even know? Maybe they're shooting at each other. Sad. Very sad. How did they get this way? Because the man was allowed to keep his uniforms. He was allowed to have these cop cars. He was protected. Did he get the weapons from them? I think yes. I really do. Honestly, I've been saying it from the beginning. I really do. I think that the weapons that he had were RCMP issue weapons. I think the car that he had was not a replica car. Never a replica car. I remember I was on America Canuck right at the very beginning of all this. And I said that. Mike kept saying to me, it's a replica car. I'm like, Mike, no, I don't think this is a replica car we're talking about. You got to look at the car. It's got the exact decals. Everybody who's looked at this car, including people who make those cars, are saying that car is like 100% real. Cage was pointing out tonight, I haven't looked at that yet, but I just heard that kind of from somebody else, that Cage was saying, look at the back of the car. I mean, it's got a radar gun in the back window. Like, seriously, is that a mock-up job? Like, the guy is going really far and overboard. How did he have all this equipment? And you use that word, equipment. Equipment. You can throw guns into equipment, just like you can throw cruiser into vehicle. You're not alone. You've got, quote, you've got bodies. You've got houses on fire, and you don't know how many shooters there are. Terrifying for these cops. Terrifying. But that's because some people didn't do their job. At 10:35, the RCMP said the killer escaped the perimeter by driving through a field past officers in what would have appeared to be many RCMP Ford Tauruses on the scene. Balls. Balls. What did they say? Hours. 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 No, that would be 34 minutes. I've been policing for almost 30 years now, quote, said Superintendent Darren Campbell, said later in later news conference, quote, I can't imagine how horrific the set of circumstances that searching for someone who looks like you. Absolutely. But why does he look like you? How did he get to look like you? How did that happen? Well, we can't talk about that. 3, why did the RCMP issue? Why didn't the RCMP issue an alert to warn the public? After evading police, the killer drove north on unpaved roads, 30 kilometers to Debert, a farming community of 1,400, where he parked behind a welding shop for the night, where police set about the grim task of sorting through the carnage he left behind in Portapique. I don't believe this. I'll tell you. I don't believe this. They're saying, like literally saying, this man went off and had a sleep. No, he didn't have a sleep. He was down in Portapique 4 hours shooting at people, and they sealed it down. And there were a few good cops who went in there to try and save people. Police sources say that when the killer was resting in his replica vehicle, RCMP officers on the scene believed that he was likely dead in one of the burning buildings. That could be, sure. The Canadian press reported that surviving gunshot victim told police that night he was shot by someone, again, right? What did we say? In an RCMP cruiser. That was right away. That was the first person encountered. And there were 3 similar vehicles burning on the scene. So police wouldn't have any reason to believe that the killer was still at large. If that is so, hold on a second here. Now, I believe that I've read 2 fully marked cruisers that he had, but now they're saying that there's 3 similar vehicles. Okay, so that makes 4, and then you've got the one down at the denture clinic. That makes 5. 5. Not 4, like they're telling us. 5. Dirt road clean. Yeah. Beth Lynch. Got it. Got it. This is RCMP cruiser driving through, this is cop car versus lawn, not field, but lawn.
Is it Sport 3? Never saw that.
This is on a lawn. It's not wet terribly.
So there he is.
This is what has to happen. Because, you know, cop cars aren't meant to go off-road.
He has a heavy Chevy. Okay.
See the roads? They're not wet.
Oh yeah, pop the hood while he's going to pull the entire vehicle. That's very interesting.
But a
Neither
field,
do I.
you know,
I just
we have those extra special cruisers here in Canada. They can drive through fields. When other car cruisers can't even drive on a lawn. And it's totally clean. Totally clean. Totally clean. In the video, burning at the scene, so police wouldn't have any reason to believe that the killer was still at large. They only learned that he was traveling around in a replica car when his common-law wife emerged from the woods the next morning at 6 a.m. Well, why did you go to the father's house at 5? The woman, who was distraught after the assault and spending the night in the woods, told police about his weapons and the missing vehicle and gave them photos of the killer and his vehicle. Well, they knew who it was from the beginning, and they knew about the car because that was on the Facebook page. We got that right away. Not hard to find, but I guess they can't use computers, but they can use Twitter. While police distributed through Twitter, which is not the best way to reach Nova Scotians. Really? You don't say. Because, you know, people who are sleeping and things like that, the phone goes, wakes them up. Twitter, nothing. The force sent several tweets that morning warning people to stay inside, but did not issue emergency alert to cell phones, although the province's emergency measures organization asked them to do so. Not asked them to do so one time, but many, many, many times, according to the Premier, according to the RCMP themselves. Many, many times. But they just kept saying, oh, don't worry about it. We're working on it. It's fluid and dynamic. We can't tell you anything. Don't worry about it. Gabriel Wardman may be driving the police vehicle after he was already escaped, and they knew because somebody bothered to pick up the phone and say, you know what? You actually let somebody through. He's standing at my door with a gun. While his common-law wife was briefing police, the killer was making his way to the residence of Alana Jenkins, 37, and Sean McLeod, corrections officers in Wentworth, a small community home to a ski hill. He then killed them, burnt their home. He also killed Tom Bagley, a volunteer firefighter who came to investigate the fire. Meanwhile, the RCMP, well, what are they doing? We're still up down here in Portapique. We're, well, he's still in Portapique. Still in Portapique. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It has been reported that the RCMP received a call at 9 at 8 a.m. in the morning, which would have made them aware that the killer was continuing his murderous rampage. What did we say? What did we say? But they did not use the emergency alert to people. And they still, 8 a.m., 8 a.m. What time? At 8 a.m.? Where's Wortman, according to the RCMP, at 8 a.m.? Let's see, where is he? Oh, here we go. At 9, he's still in Portapique. Active shooter. This is the first, is that the first mention? Okay, no, sorry, second one. Second one. At 8 a.m., they were informing people that there was an active shooter in Portapique. But they were getting information that he was killing people, and they already had 911 calls that he was away. The system had never been used for an active shooter warning, although it had been used by Nova Scotia days earlier for the COVID health warning. But you know what? As soon as some stuff started to come out, do you know what they did? Oh, they used the emergency alert system the next day. Was it the next day? Oh, yes. There's a man in the parking lot, and he appears to have a airsoft gun that he's purchased from the Canadian Tire. And also, we heard somebody drop a board at a construction site. We got this. Wortman? No, nothing. You're going to get Twitter. The system had never been used. At 9:35, the police received news that he had killed again, this time Lillian Heislip, who was murdered as she walked down the road in Wentworth. Apparently a random attack. What's happening at 9:35 on Twitter? This is the only way that they're telling people. 9:35. Here we go at 9. He's in Portapique. Where is he at 9:35? Oh, at 10. At 10, they're going to tell you. At 10, they're going to say, well, yeah, actually, he got away from us. Sorry about that. Friends and neighbors believe the alert might have saved her life. Really? I think the alert might have saved a lot of people's lives, but I don't even understand why the alert needed to happen, because Mr. Wortman should have never happened to begin with. This all could have been avoided. The entire thing. At 9:48, the killer visited nearby home of a couple known to him, apparently planning to murder them, but they hid from him until he left. Oh, these were his friends, right? This is what so 9:48, where is he? Oh, he's still in Portapique. He's still in Portapique. Oh, because it's not until 10:04 that they're going to say he's out. Even though they've got repeated calls, they're shitting their pants. At 10:08, the police received a 911 call about the murders of Heather O'Brien, mother of 6, and Kristen Beaton, and sister who was pregnant with the child. Both nurses were Victorian Order of Nurses. The killer shot them in their cars as apparent random murders. Well, how did he do that? Well, he pulled them over in my RCMP cruiser, which, of course, everybody knew about, but the RCMP. What time was that at? 10:08. Where is he at 10:08? I think now 4 minutes. They've told you that he's out. Yay. Thanks, Twitter RCMP. Nick Beaton, widower of Kristen, is still waiting for the police to return the wedding ring and the cell phone. See? I've been saying the whole time, they've just been keeping this shit. Keep it. It's got information on it. We don't want people to know. We fucked up. Oops. What are we going to do? He is careful to say he doesn't blame the foot soldiers on the ground. I don't blame the foot soldiers on the ground. I blame the brass, but believes the force's failure to send the alert led to his wife's death. Yes. And I'm surprised because he has launched a suit. He's launched a suit against, and good for him. And his lawyer has said, even though the suit is only against Wortman's property, he said in a roundabout way, other class actions can get thrown into this, meaning maybe the RCMP might get sued. And right away, when I phoned down there was a lawyer who answered the phone, and they said, if you're phoning about suing the RCMP, I can't deal with that case personally, meaning I have a conflict of interest, but I can find you somebody who can. They didn't say it that way, though. I asked them. They're like, yes, I can find you somebody. Unborn baby's death. The RCMP are as responsible for my wife and unborn death as much as the lowlife. Thank you. Oh, he's changed his view. I don't know who talked to him, because this was not what he said the other day. This was not what he said the other day. He's changed. He's changed his opinion. And I think maybe somehow all of us maybe are making some difference somewhere. And I'm hoping to God everybody is spreading the word like wildfire. Because this Canada, you don't understand the ramifications of what this can do. Because this can let these gigantic bureaucracies know that the people have the power, that they can take them down if a notch or two. It's not, we can just keep fucking up more and more and more and more and more. And people are just going to have to take it because they sit there with their attitudes of, I can't do anything. I'm just one person. Police sources say the RCMP may have been afraid of sending the alert, in part because it would put officers in jeopardy with armed members of the public looking to protect themselves, and also because their communications might have been paralyzed. That sounds like a load. I think a lot of people would have just stayed at home, not gone outside, and probably not opened the door for any RCMP. It's COVID. What does that have to do with anything? Nobody's going to go outside. You send the alert. Listen, there's a guy running around in a cop car, and you better get off the road and stay at home. Okay. Lock the door. Don't let him in. So, no, not buying this one at all. We're protecting our ass. We are chasing a guy in a police car in a uniform, says a person familiar with the operation. Quote, the number one thing I would be afraid of in putting out an alert, we would be chasing down our own shadows and depleting our resources and eroding our containment because everyone would be calling in every police car that they saw. And that would be a tactical consideration. That's kind of a valid point, I suppose. But if you just say to people, listen, stay at home. Don't go out. Right? We're going to be in a better boat. Okay? I don't think a lot of people from home are going to be phoning and saying, I saw a police officer if they're down in their basement. The officers running the operation were under terrible stress. No doubt. No doubt. And I frankly, I feel sorry for them. And those officers who are shooting at that other officer, it is understandable, but it is, how did that get to be the problem? People think that these things are real time, like a CSI episode, but they weren't communicating with themselves. Clearly, there's a lot of problems with their communication internally. We had one person briefed on the events. It doesn't work that way. It's a fucking shit show. We don't know where he was. We had no visual on him. We don't know where he was going to go. Other police sources think the RCMP made the wrong call. And, said a person briefed on the events. What does that really mean? A person familiar with the operation. Does that mean that somebody who is actually a police officer? I'm not reading that. I'm reading a person who is briefed on the events. Could be a politician, could be anybody. But police sources think the RCMP made the wrong call. Quote, you say there's an active shooter, said a law enforcement source who is not authorized to discuss the case. Of course, why? Why? Because it's pie plate time, pie plate. You say there's an active shooter. Quote, if you're going to go home, stay at home, lock your doors. Bing. Like I said, I haven't read this yet. You don't go, you have to say he's dressed as a Mountie or anything. People went about their lives, and if one had been sent out, likely they wouldn't have done what they did. If they sent it out, very likely they wouldn't have done what they did. And by this point, if you know that he's an RCMP guy, why not have it so that some way to differentiate yourself, like I said earlier. I'm sure you could radio to all of them to do something. wear an orange vest. Get a whole shit pile of orange vests and everybody wears them. And then all of a sudden you see a yellow vest. Well, maybe that's your guy. The RCMP has said they were preparing an alert when the killer was stopped. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks. He wasn't stopped. They had speculation that they were waiting for approval from Ottawa, but knowledgeable sources said that is not the case. Operational decisions were all made in Nova Scotia by the gigantic bureaucracy of the RCMP, who didn't want anybody else involved. Truro, Amherst, Halifax. They didn't want anybody to know what kind of a fuck up they had done. At the news conference later, Chief Superintendent Leather said the force was, quote, very satisfied. I mean, that was just vile when he said that, with his messaging through Twitter. He said that police were preparing an alert when the gunman was gunned down, or the killer was gunned down. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming out. So that's like the belated birthday present 3 weeks later. It really kind of meh. So a lot of delay was based on communication between the provincial emergency measures organizations, the various officers, and then discussion about what the message, how it would be constructed, what it would say. And an hour and a bit of conversation, it was the suspect was killed. Listen, you don't have to have a discussion. It's really simple. Really simple. There is a man who is dressed like a police officer who is running amok. Please stay in your home. That's not fluid. It's not dynamic. It's nothing special. Hey, Bree, how's it going? Pretty easy. Long time no see. In an interview with CBC's Radios As It Happens, RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki acknowledged that it's possible that an alert would have saved lives. Well, I'm glad. The IQ level is moving up a notch. Well, it maybe could have done something. I don't know. Those people who were pulled over and shot, that could have been prevented. I don't know. Maybe something might have happened. Maybe. But you never know. So we'll just leave it in the, who cares? Quote, what I would say is that they did the alert through Twitter, and going back on what I said earlier, the more ways we can alert, the better. Airsoft guns and dropping boards they can do. Crazed madmen that they have allowed to have cars, uniforms, guns. No, don't worry. Twitter time. The force is now drafting a new policy on the use of active alerts and active shooter situations. Thank you. That's good. But again, no admission of any kind of wrongdoing, no apologies. What happened to the Onslow Belmont Fire Hall? Oh, this one will be good. Let's see. About 10:30, the chief and deputy chief of the Onslow Belmont Fire Brigade were in the fire hall near Truro, setting up a muster point for evacuees from the Portapique, along with an official from Colchester County's Emergency Management Organization. Oh, the ones that they didn't use. Right. While the men were in the hall got the hall ready, an RCMP officer from Pictou County was outside standing next to his cruiser providing security. Two other officers drove up, believing the Pictou officer was a suspect, and opened fire on him. Not using protocol like RCMP. Freeze. No, they just open up. Let's go. Or we see somebody standing there like, quote, there was a horrible confusion for a nanosecond at the scene, and with the two officers who stepped out of the car pointing firearms at this officer discharged several rounds, said someone briefed on the shooting. They missed killing him. Thank goodness. And like I said, my heart does go out to the police officers because it would be very confusing. But again, there would have been ways to handle this. If I had heard this right away, I would have said, we need a way to differentiate ourselves from Wortman. And how can we do that? And I'm sure there's lots of vests sitting around. You can put that one on. Put on an orange vest. We know he's running around with a yellow vest. Well, actually, I don't know if they know that at the time, but something that is clearly not RCMP issue. Wear it. Everybody wear it. Now you know. There was a horrible confusion. Okay. Thank goodness. They apparently did not warn the Pictou County officer as they would have been trained to do. Again, we've been saying since the very onset, they didn't identify themselves, which is a violation of policy, and put dozens of bullets into the building. Quote, didn't challenge, said another police officer. Didn't speak. Quote, didn't speak. Just started opening fire. It was Wild West out there, man. And the officer dove in between the vehicles and started screaming on the radio to stop. And they took off. Oh my God, we just shot up. Who did we kill anybody? I don't know. Just get the fuck out of here, man. Let's just get out of here. Bullets are going in there. They destroyed a fire engine. I mean, the bullet holes, they have like this picture, but if you actually see the video, there's a lot of fucking bullet holes going around. They were like, the officers who opened up didn't speak to the volunteer firefighters before leaving. Again, we've been saying, what the hell, man? You just open up. You don't check to see if you've killed anybody even. You just leave. Don't worry about that. We'll deal with that one later. Oh, just chalk it up to the Twitter stuff. We're learning from really good sources here how to deal with things appropriately. Joy McCabe, who lives across the street, saw the beginning of the firefight. Quote, and while I was looking out, the car pulled up right in the middle of the road, opened up both doors, and started shooting, she told the Truro Daily News. Claire Peters, public relations officer for the fire brigade, said the firefighters inside hit the floor. Kids fighting in basements, firefighters hitting the floor. What a disaster. What a disaster. And here they are fighting in court to keep warrants secret, which says to me, what are you hiding? Quote, they were immediately on the floor with tables upturned and over, so they were shielded. They knew that there was an officer out front to provide protection they needed. But when somebody is shooting outside, you don't know what's going on. So they didn't see anything that happened out there. They were instructed to remove their Facebook post. And one of their engines was destroyed. Fire engines was destroyed. Bullets went into it, through the building, into the fire engine, and destroyed it. No longer functioning. This is how bad the bullet situation was. There. And you got the officers. Oh shit, we opened fire. Oops. I don't know. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Man. The firefighters and the officer who came under fire are said to have been badly rattled by the experience, which is being investigated by Nova Scotia's Serious Incident Response Team. Now, you see, I did say that wrongly before, that the Portapique people had been evacuated to this fire hall. But, funnily enough, it turns out, I guess that's just my good luck, I wasn't entirely wrong, because they were setting the place up to have the victims evacuated there. What happens if they were there at the time? Oh my God, you're just traumatizing more people. They get traumatized. Imagine if they had taken Clinton Ellison, who's been hiding out in the woods, freezing his ass off, listening to gunfire, watched his brother shot. They've taken away his phone. The family can't contact him to find out if he's even alive. They drop him off at the fire hall, and then the cops come in and open up fire on him. And other people. The kids. How about that? Now you've just traumatized them exponentially more because they're like, oh my God, the real police are shooting at us now. Crazy. Crazy. Hopefully, they're all getting therapy. Pierce said the RCMP officers involved can count on continuing support of the members of the fire brigade. What? The ones that open fire? They shouldn't have a job if they can't know to, like, their own basic training. Go in, you want to pull a firearm, you're going to announce who you are and make it very clear. Freeze. RCMP. If you can't do that and you didn't learn that at Depot, you're fired. Thank you. And probably should be charged. Quote, we have every respect for what they do, he said. Quote, we meet them in accident scenes and all situations, all sorts of situations. We just expect the best thing can be done, will be done. We want to give them every assurance that they have our confidence and we respect what they're doing. I respect what they're doing. I don't respect fuck-ups. Because in a normal workforce, they're going to be fired. You can't do your job, you're gone. I understand you're rattled. I understand all of that, but that is your job, to be able to operate under stressful environments as best as possible. And you still have your basic training that you have to adhere to. 5, why didn't the RCMP, and plus they should have called in, like, hello, apologize. Instead, the RCMP came out and they're like, well, we don't know who actually did that. And then a few days later, they're like, well, yes, there's a certain investigation going on. And, well, we do know who the 2 members are, but we can't say anything because it's under CERT's purview now. 5, why didn't the RCMP use other police forces to keep the killer from traveling? Okay, good. See, I'm glad. Like I said, I haven't read any of this, and I got those articles lined up. While RCMP officers were shooting up the fire hall, unbeknownst to the police, the killer was driving around in his replica cruiser. Again, many questions about this part for me. Through the downtown business district of Truro. Police have not said why he went there. There is no indication he attempted to gain entry to the hospital where his common law and other shooting victims were being treated. Oh, that's the lockdown here, right? At that hospital. Truro police were notified of the shooting when they said they were asked to assist with the lockdown at the hospital at midnight, April 18th. They put extra officers on next morning and contacted RCMP to offer assistance. But the RCMP thanked us for the offer, but did not ask for assistance, said spokeswoman Josie Gallant. Truro and Amherst were asked not to respond directly. Strange. But you're going to bring in people from New Brunswick. That's your own force. But then you're also going to investigate your own force. This is clearly massive conflicts of interest and pie plating all over the place. It is not clear why the RCMP didn't ask the Truro and Amherst police force to set up roadblocks to prevent the killer from leaving the area. Roadblocks at the entrances of Highway 102, which leads to the killer's Dartmouth home, could have easily been blocked by Truro police, closing a natural choke point to the Bay of Fundy, where the Bay of Fundy divides the province. The Truro, quote, the Truro police cannot comment on what the RCMP did or did not do, said Gallant. Quote, the Truro police was asked not to set up roadblocks or a perimeter for containment. Now, frankly, I don't like these cop-outs anymore. No pun intended. Yeah, actually, you can comment. And this whole process is about a shift in thinking for all of us to stop saying, it's not our responsibility, we can't do anything, we can't say anything. No, you actually can't. And so what? You're going to catch a little bit of heat from the RCMP. Oh, no. Isn't this all about bettering our society, bettering this world, doing the right things? If somebody's fucking up, you should call it. Fucking up. The Truro police only became aware that the killer had driven through Truro, quote, when the RCMP released a video showing the vehicle driving through town, approximately a week later. Thanks. That goes right up there with the active shooter, or sorry, firearms complaint for hours and hours and hours. Oh, and then let's see. Oh, yes, this would be 8:02. So that is 9 hours later. 9 hours later, telling people, yes, actually, it's a shooting. It's not a firearms complaint. It's not a soft gun out in the fucking Canadian Tire the next day activating the alarm. No. Actually, this was a shooting. A week later, we're going to tell you he was driving through town. But don't worry about it. The Truro police, it's just insane. The Amherst Police Department stepped up to backfill for the nearby RCMP detachment, but otherwise received detailed information only through back channels with local Mounties who have a good working relationship with Amherst police officers. Yay! But why did they have to do it through back channels? I suspect probably they were looking at Twitter too, which was really informative. Quote, I see no indication that they engaged Truro police or Amherst police, who are on either side of that, who have 60 sworn officers between them, says Paul Palango, a retired journalist who wrote 3 highly regarded books on the RCMP and now lives in Nova Scotia. Weird. But they did call RCMP resources. This is exactly what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying. The other night and even earlier. And now I'm reading it. Bang. Yeah. I mean, they were calling in everybody else, but everybody else who didn't have anything that because they're not going to besmirch their own organization, right? That's why they didn't have other people come in. Surveillance video shows the killer stopped to remove a jacket, put on the yellow traffic vest of Millbrook First Nation outside Truro before heading to Dartmouth. This stuff, people, honestly, this one here, really strange. The time is wrong on on an IP auto detect time security footage. The RCMP are moving the time back half an hour to fit their timeline with the Shubenacadie nonsense, because he obviously wouldn't have had time to do the Shubenacadie stuff if the time on the clock was right. Big problems. And this video was never supposed to come out. Never supposed to come out. Ms. Marshall in Ottawa went and accessed the cloud, found the footage, posted it on Facebook before the RCMP got a hold of it. Then that was like another, oh, fuck, what are we going to do moment. Well, we're going to change the time. Maybe nobody will notice. Maybe nobody will see that. 12 hours after he began his rampage, he was still at large, having eluded his pursuers. 19 people were dead. 3 more were to die. Quote, why weren't the roads flooded by police? Why weren't they stopping everyone? Why wasn't the province shut down? There's not that many roads. This is from a man who apparently wrote books, who loves RCMP. Why wasn't Heidi Stevenson's cruiser equipped with a push bar? Oh, this will be interesting. I'm going to have to go through this more thoroughly. After the killer left Millbrook, on this one, on the surveillance photo, They tell you that this is at the Millbrook Fire Hall. They've lied about where it is, too. They lied about where this actually took place. This took place at the cigar shop. Lloyd Johnson, who works there, and Thompson's. Sorry, not Thompson. Marshall's Cigar Hut. The counselor from Millbrook First Nation owns that cigar hut. But they say it's the Millbrook Fire Hall. No such thing. 10 kilometers away. After the killer left Millbrook, his next victim was Constable Chad Morrison, who was waiting for Constable Heidi Stevenson, a mother of two, 23-year veteran officer, at Highway Junction at Shubenacadie at 10:45 when the killer drove up next to him and shot him. Okay, I'm not going to make a lot of comments on this. I have a lot of issues with what happened here. Constable Morrison thought the vehicle was Constable Stevenson. The approaching vehicle was actually driven by the gunman, Superintendent Darren Campbell said at the conference. Morrison managed to drive away and radio for help. Stevenson, who was nearby, tried to stop the killer. They collided head-on. The killer shot and killed Stevenson and took her firearm, her sidearm. I think this is why we're going to see autopsy reports, which may or may not come out, that have Gina Goulet with bullets in her from RCMP. Maybe even Stevenson. The vehicle that killed Stevenson was not equipped with a push bar front bumper, unlike the replica vehicle the killer was driving, which may have given him an advantage in the collision, according to some experts. Blango points out something similar happened in 2006. Constable, some but not all. Okay, push bars, RCMP. RCMP would not address this issue. After shooting Stevenson, the killer set the vehicles ablaze and killed Joey Weber, 36-year-old father of two who stopped to help. The killer stole Weber's car, drove it to the nearby home of Gina Goulet, who he knew, murdered her, changed into civilian clothes, and stole her car, which was low on gas. None of this makes sense. And if anybody here thinks that this makes sense, I would ask them to pause and think about all of what they're telling you there. Because how do they know about the Joey Weber and the silver tracker, which they're saying is running around earlier and way out of in different directions beforehand? And for such an extended period of time. Confirmed? No. No. I think Mr. Weber sadly may have been collateral damage. Somebody gave a bad tip to the RCMP, something happened, I don't know what, and Mr. Weber ends up dying. His tracker disappears, who knows where. It's the cruiser straight from the cigar hut to Gina Goulet's house. He leaves that and takes the Mazda. I don't know. I guess it's just maybe really good luck that the police stopped beside him, driving a different car, wearing different clothes, and they knew that it was him because they needed gas. Stinks. At the Irving Big Stop in nearby Enfield, 2 RCMP officers, one from emergency response team and a canine officer, recognized the killer from the photo they had seen on their phones when he was filling his stolen car. They warned him. When he failed to comply with their warnings, repeatedly shot him. He died after they put the cuffs on him. They're saying 2 people. 2 people. The pictures certainly don't indicate 2 officers. They indicate a lot more officers than 2 who are standing there. And because these are taken moments after. In fact, there's the video. Even I think they say they hear the shots. Where's that video? Well, where is it? I know you guys are probably like, you just went by it. Durr. Yeah, I probably did. That's the enhanced one. Where's Steve's? Steve's video. I think those guys say that they hear shots, and there's lots of police officers. So I had this business about 2 officers who just stopped for gas. I don't know, because he's not wearing the RCMP uniform. They think he's wearing the RCMP uniform. They think he's driving a different vehicle, the Silver Tracker, and he's not anywhere near there. And they just happen to stop for gas, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, there he is. I don't know. I don't know. The RCMP in Nova Scotia is still reeling from the incident. Members who known and love Stevenson are turning up to work every day, holding their emotions in check so that they can do their jobs. A number of members on the force have been unable to return to work, and many likely have long-term challenges dealing with the trauma of the crime scene. No doubt. No doubt. But if the cover-up goes as far as I think it may go, to where Stevenson was collateral damage and was killed by other RCMP officers mistakenly, that's going to be a very serious problem. And again, my heart goes out to the police officers, but why were they put in this position to begin with? They never needed to be here. Wortman could have been off the street, could have been all these items removed from him. Many different things could have happened. None of it needed to happen. And it's just been catch up on how can we cover everything up and keep people from looking at us so that we can have all the power that we have, all the power. We need to keep all the power as possible. Some of the Mounties who pursued the Portapique killer are still dealing with the trauma from a 2014 Moncton shooting, which took the lives of 3 Mounties. Why are we not? I'm arguing equally for why are we not having a police force, national police force, that protects its own officers? They're not protecting their officers. What they're protecting is their identity and the brass at the top. They're not protecting their own officers. They're just like, well, you guys can deal with that. That's too bad. We're not going to fix anything within our organization so this doesn't happen again. After that tragedy, the force was found guilty of labor code violations, fined $550,000 for failing to provide officers with adequate training and equipment, in particular high-powered rifles. Why are we having to go around and find our force guilty? Like, they're guilty all over the place. Picton Farm, stuff cover up there, not dealing with any of those cases, ignoring it. Many women died as a result of that, horrifically. And Campbell's ex-wife is heavily involved in that. And she was an officer in the RCMP and came out critically against the RCMP, saying that they absolutely dropped the ball and people died. These people have really serious cleanup to do. Serious cleanup. The force have failed to properly equip its officers in spite of the recommendation of the inquiry of the 2005 shooting, where the death of 4 outgunned RCMP officers in Marathon. The RCMP is continuing the investigation. It has conducted 500 interviews, not returned any phones, right, of course. Now, don't hear from any witnesses, not one, other than Mr. Ellison. Spooky, man. That is spooky. Where are they? And search 17 crime scenes. I know if something happens on my street, something happened a few years ago, and the police came out. Well, there was a lot of people talking about it. Where are all these people? And that was nothing. I mean, it was just... Anyways, Beaton, who lost his wife and unborn child, lanced class action lawsuit seeking a public inquiry into the murder rampage. Oh, okay, that's an addition. I didn't know that they were looking for the public inquiry. All that I saw was just a class action suit against Wortman's estate. Observers said they expect the province will eventually call a public inquiry into the affair. Nova Scotia's Public Inquiries Act. Although it is possible a joint federal-provincial inquiry will be held instead. It's premature to consider the public inquiry at this time, said spokesperson for the Nova Scotia Justice Minister, Mark Furey. Furey is a former member of the RCMP. Oh, good. Oh, good. Good. Morning, Blue. Sorry, I've just been reading away, so I know you guys have been chatting away over there. Not meaning to ignore anybody. I'm sure you guys have all kinds of good comments. Listen, I really think these public inquiries and all these oversight bodies like CERT, which is really just controlled by RCMP and police members, really has to have civilians come in and just say, listen, you got to clean it up. And that's why I am a really, really big advocate into a class action lawsuit against the RCMP, possibly other defendants in there, perhaps the federal government named also, and start asking questions. Sit them down in discovery, depose the people, lots and lots of people, and start getting the answers. Because these, boondoggles of public inquiries and people sitting around shuffling paper and friends of friends and special interest groups and police pressure and all this other nonsense. Let's just do it ourselves. We can do it ourselves. We don't need them and their cover-ups. They are not handling it well. People can do it. People can do it. Letter of the law, spirit of the law. There you go. Absolutely. What if we had a common law court? Well, I'm not even gonna mess around with that kind of stuff. I'm trying to just keep my eye on the prize. The eye on the prize is having the RCMP answer to what they have done, and not answer in the public inquiries stuff, because that we all know those don't work. Nothing changes. We can change that. I know people seem to think that they don't have power. I keep saying people have power. And even if I'm totally off base, hey, little Miss So, oh, well, you missed me exploding earlier. Great article. So I'm going to leave the link here. Copy, paste. Okay. And I know Hillbilly's been dropping in links for Tara's stuff. But I'm really hoping, lots of good stuff. So I would take, there's some police people coming out talking. Yay, win. They aren't going on the record on name, but they have said so many different things that we have, maintained the whole time or have come across, right? Such as, I think the big ones is that they sealed it down and left them there, which is pretty horrific. And that the business of this 1035 nonsense was a farce, and that they knew about all these things beforehand, but they never did anything. But why do I keep going on and on about a class action suit? Because why not try it? Why not try it? Is there something that's saying to us we can't do that? Maybe I'm totally wrong, and maybe it will fail. But frankly, I think maybe not. It's worked in the past, and I suspect it could work here. And we could get Canadians showing bureaucracies like the RCMP, like the political, like even the government. Hold on a second here. You do something, maybe the people might hit back. The people might hit back. Not your inquiries, not the politicians, not more bureaucrats, not more paper. The people might actually take you to court, and you might be found responsible for things, and you may have to pay. That puts a lot of fear in people. Just saying. And I've been advocating for that kind of stuff for years. I know all my videos are locked away in private, to which I keep getting copyright strikes on things. More interesting stuff, which is a whole other level of what's going on YouTube. Lots of different things over there, but I'm not really going to touch that one right now, because my focus is got to be staying within the confines of exposing the corruption and solution. Problem, solution. That's where I want to stay. Anyway, 2 hour, 20 minutes, another great long stream. 37 people. Thank you. Hillbilly, Good News, Blue, Sister, Pseudo. Wow, we got lots of people in here. Zachary, Little Miss So. Yeah, lots of good people. Lorraine. Super people in here doing lots of hard work. Ozzy was in here, I know, one point, probably gone. So keep spreading the word, please. Keep spreading the word, because this story is dying. It's dying, even though articles like this are coming out, even though there's people coming around and saying things, and we're saying all this stuff way ahead of time. So we're way ahead of these people. We are, all of us here, right? And maybe that's why. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not very self-important at all. I'm a nobody. I'm not going to say those other guys are nobodies. They're great guys. That's all I know. But I'm just a nobody who has a YouTube channel who's just pissed with the way things are going. And maybe there are people that are listening or watching. I don't know. But hopefully they are, because they're definitely going to hear, at least from us over here, we're not satisfied. And I think there's a consensus on that one. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I've only ever seen one, to the best of my knowledge, I've only ever seen one naysayer in here. One. And I was fairly certain that that person was a police officer. And I challenged that person on what they were saying, and they went away. They didn't come back. So maybe it worked. I don't know. I brought it up in the grocery store, Nova Scotia. I won't shut up about this. Thank you. Sadly enough, I tried to explain this to my friends here in Cape Breton. They think I'm crazy. Okay. Cape Breton. Cape Breton is another little component in here which hasn't been spoken about yet. There may have been the hint of it here, but in Cape Breton, when this was going down, there was a woman's house that was surrounded by police who was involved with this. And I know that from somebody who gave me some insider information from the Halifax Police Department. So maybe you can ask around about that one. See if people in Cape Breton know about that. Maybe, just maybe, because you might find that will come out. Do I know the area in Cape Breton? No, because I've been trying to just pick my brain very carefully about some questions that I don't have contact with this person. I don't know how good the contact is with that, like friendship is with that person who told me this information with this officer. And I don't obviously want to get him in trouble or anything, but I want to think of a couple, not lots, because I don't want to inundate them and spook them. I want to think of a couple of really good questions to ask. And I thought one, and I've been farming around between, Cage, Steve, and Adrian, and I have kind of been talking about maybe what are a couple of good questions to ask. And one of them I thought of was, does the Halifax Police Department have a record? I'm sure they're probably all sealed down, but we could see a record of the burglary that apparently took place at Wortman's Denture Clinic, where the fax machine got dropped when Mr. Wortman pulled a shotgun. Was there a record of Mr. Wortman pulling a shotgun on somebody and the Halifax Police Department didn't do anything? Because that would be pretty interesting stuff. Again, that would just go right there into the sheet of known incidents. Where's that? Oh, I closed that video. That's too bad. Where's that? Known incidents, right?
No, he was not.
Oh, suspect not known to police, right? Oops, sorry, I didn't share, of course. I have to do that every time, right?
No, he was not.
That's an out-and-out lie. And that's where the whole problem began with. They didn't deal with it to begin with. And still to this point, they're just obfuscating and saying, go away, don't ask questions. We're not going to tell you anything, but what we do tell you, you just have to believe it, even though it's utter horse shit. Anyway, you're waking up to new stuff, Zachary. Good stuff. Some friends making friends. Good stuff. I like friends making friends. Like and share, subscribe if you haven't already yet. Thanks, Hillbilly. Yeah, those likes apparently do something. And it's really not that hard to hit a button. And if it does help the message grow, that's good. Because I'm pretty sure the RCMP have been watching carefully. So good. Let them know. Let them know that you're upset. Ha ha ha. These guys are professional liars. Got to find out who's causing it. Who's causing it at the top? Are they just following orders? Leather says in this, I'm not at liberty to say at one point during this press conference, either this one or the next one, because there were 5 of them. And I didn't even know about one of them. I only knew of 4, but there were in fact 5 press conferences that were held. And so they asked him about the guns that were used. And he said, I'm not at liberty to say. And I would say I have my suspicions that RCMP weapons were used the entire time. And of course, this is going to absolutely wreck the, what is that? Suggest, look up Justine. That would absolutely 36 likes. Hey, Hoggy, you're awesome. I don't like to, I don't ever like to ask for those kinds of things. So other people ask for them on my behalf. I feel okay. Asking myself, not so good. Yeah, we have been hoodwinked big time. And who is telling him not to be at liberty? Who's telling him? Who's giving him the orders? Right? And the media is in on this too, to a certain extent. CBC has done some funny stuff here. One only needs to look, and I'll tell you, I'm familiar with this from before. I know I always say the Quebec Moss nonsense. That is a game changer. It was a game changer, people. If you look at YouTube, I've already shown you a couple of instances of scrubbing by the CBC, but if you do CBC Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia shooting, okay, and you look at their playlists, filter, playlist, okay, tragedy in Nova Scotia. I believe this is the
Nova Scotia RCMP say they now know where the gunman obtained the.
Oh yes, the RCMP know everything. You go down here in this playlist. Oh, what's this? What's that? Private videos. Does that strike you just as slightly odd? Because I know in the Quebec Mosque one, they did the same thing. Let's see if you put in CBC Quebec Mosque. Shooting. And then you filter playlist. And you view the playlist. And you go to the very first video. Is it still there? Otherwise, I'm going to have to pull out an old tweet of mine. Oh, there you go. See this one? Private video. There were some things said in this private video they didn't like people to know about. So they made it private. I would say, what did they make private in the other playlist? Because if they're going to go back, and I don't know how to clearly explain that. The Clinton Ellison interview, this was really, really, really sneaky, very sneaky that got changed. I was trying to figure out a way to explain it in a video. I don't know exactly how, because his was this part back here. right? This video was uploaded on the 22nd, and so I downloaded it right away. And then the same day, so if you go to their video now, that portion that I just played to you is removed. So they did a little bit post-editing, but it doesn't look like they did. And if nobody knew about it, never would have happened. The same thing with the interview here, the press conference, which I live streamed, and CBC went back and edited the RCMP's live stream to remove a certain portion. And if you don't know that it's gone, you'd never notice. But I had the real copies, and I had it before they did it. Now, this makes me really question how much of this shit are they doing? And of course, who does the CBC work for? Other media, and it's not just the CBC, but the CBC is pretty bad. All it is a propaganda tool. How much of the shit that we learn or hear from them, same with articles, I find them changing articles and removing little pieces, and I'm like, those pieces are actually kind of important. They point fingers in places that would make people squirm. So then they go and they change it and they remove it. And I'm like, ooh. Sorry, what was this? I caught CBC edit out the fact a child was deceased prior to calling an Amber Alert. When CBC tried to call me out on social media, I posted the original clip. I got blocked a minute later. Good job, little Miss So. I did the same thing on Twitter once with the Abdi case. What was it? Abdi? The guy down in Toronto who was running around shooting people. And I used to get up in the mornings and I would look through all the different police departments' press releases every morning. And so I saw the press release on Mr. Abdi, and they gave his name and they gave his picture. And CBC released an article an hour later, and they said, oh, the person had been arrested, and they failed to identify who it was, and they failed to put a picture. They just said somebody was shooting. And I was like, oh, really? So I sent them a picture of the article and side by side with a picture of the press release. And honestly, within, I'm going to say maximum 15 minutes, maximum, they went back and they changed the article. And they put his picture and they put his name. And I was like, you fuckers, man, really? Like, you're going to keep that from people just because you didn't want. I used to do the same, but it stopped my sanity. So good job. You know, call these people out. That's the only way. It's like you lift up the rock and they just squirm. And that's people trying to hold other people to a standard that we should all hold ourselves and others to. That's the toilet that we've got in our society, right? If we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. But, you know, obviously it takes a lot of work, and they know that. This is the sad thing about all this kind of stuff. They understand that oh, well, nobody really has the time to do these kinds of things, or nobody really is going to hold us to account, i.e. RCMP in this case, right? Or CBC, or any organization, company, group of people, whatever, In fact, fuck, if you want to come after the Irish people, good, let's go. You know, we all need to clean up our stuff, right? Anyway, but this problem and solution is all up to us. And but I mean, it's just a very clear demonstration that they are the propaganda wing of our government and are sowing lies. I mean, they say in one of their articles, they literally say the gunman escaped through a field at 10:35, and I'm like, no, the RCMP never said that. Never said that. They chose their words very carefully. Their lawyers advised them very carefully of what they should say so that they can protect themselves, but also have plausible deniability. But CBC goes one step further and perpetuates that lie by saying, oh yeah, by the way, the RCMP said this. No. They never did. I'm 40. I call out those mean front entry, rude employees standing in front of NSLCs. Why am I not figuring out NSLC? What is an NSLC? Calling out people is good. Constructively. NSLC. I guess maybe that's not something I'm going to figure out. 41 people. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Silver Soap. Very few seem to question the narrative given people's thoughts are not their own. Well, they're piped into us. Programming. TV programming. It's crazy how much TV has just absolutely controlled people's mindsets. Even the most subtle things, you know, those simple little programs. I was having that disagreement with my girlfriend this morning, and I said that to her. I'm like, you know, those programs that you watch to just tune out from what is going on in the world also have the ideas that pipe your kids full of some stuff you probably don't want them full of. Nova Scotia Liquor Control. All right. Morning, Facts. How you doing? Anyway, I guess I said 41 and I lose 5 people. Okay, so thanks very much for joining me. Sorry if I blasted some people's eardrums. I apologize. I got a little bit upset. And no, that doesn't mean I'm a crazy man or I'm going to run around like a ward man or anything stupid. I'm actually fairly calm usually, but I just don't tolerate lying. I really don't tolerate lying and then incompetency, especially when it costs people's lives. Because those people's lives, Tara's life is never going to be the same. She lost half her family. And that's fucking devastating. And that's a friend of mine. And I mean, awful stuff. And for people then to sit in the background and smirk. This right in here, he smirks, Mr. Watch him. He just smirks. It's ugly. It's gross.
Thank you. La question suivante. The next question is from Paul Vieira with the Wall Street Journal. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
What's that? What was that? What is that? That's gross, man. This is not funny stuff he's talking about. It's not funny. It's gross. It's really sad and sick, and it should never happen. And it's not something to smirk about. Really gross. Anyways, thanks very much. Thoroughly enjoy the passion. Well, you'll get you'll get an earful. Just be prepared. Turn down the TV. I think some people were saying I was waking up dogs next door and stuff. So yeah. I didn't mean to get that angry, but where is my face diaper? I got a face diaper. I should go and buy a diaper that I can. No, I honestly don't. I refuse to wear this kind of stuff. I refuse to. I'm going to go out in public. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to have a good life. You know, obviously I'm not going to break rules all over the place, but I'm going to be disobedient in some capacities and make people feel dumb in other ones because, frankly, this is all getting a bit silly, and we've got to stop being silly. Do I think that Corona kills old people? Goddamn right I do. It does kill old people because it just the people who have really compromised immune systems and are sick with lots of other stuff. I don't know why I've veered off into this, but that it wreaks havoc on them, and that's really sad. And of course, who's bringing that all about is even more gross. But you know, people our age, doctors, many good doctors. Oh, this will probably get me in nonsense if I start talking about it. But many good doctors speak about the fact that you need your immune system to be kept up. It's the book The Stand. When I was like, seriously, I don't know how old I was, like 8 or 10 when I read that book. And it just resonates so much with me these days, even though it's Stephen King and a pretty horrific writing, but as in not very good. But that book was a pretty good book, and it was true. Like, why you have all this gunk around you, antibacterial stuff, like the super bugs that are going to come out of this stuff is really, to kill off the elders. Yeah, I think that's true. Good news. I really do. I know I've said that a few times before. I think the old people, they have a lot of knowledge. They have a knowledge of times before, when the time that was better. And I think that's not a good thing for people to hear, because they might actually understand. Oh, wow. You mean there weren't people running around mass shooting all the time? You mean people actually had, I don't know, shooting ranges at school, and people were trained in guns, and they were responsible, and nobody was running around killing people, and people weren't being dishonest and raping people en masse. And I mean, no, we were actually kind of good. We all got along. No, can't hear about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think the superbug stuff, that, and I said to some guy the other day, was it the drive-through? I think I said that the other night. It was at the drive-through. I hadn't gone to one. It seems like an outing now. Like, this is really how sad people are. It's like, oh, I went to a drive-through. Yeah, yay for you! Wow, it's fucking. I hate lying. Yeah, that lying is. That's what it. I'm very black and white on lies, dishonesty, or withholding of information. I throw it all into the same category. Adultery, bang, all in the same shit. Anyway, so I went to this drive-through, and the guy tried to pass me the PIN pad, and he's like, no, tap only. I'm like, okay. And for whatever reason, the tap didn't work. I don't really like using the tap anyway, but whatever. And so he's had to give me the machine. And I was like, I used like my sleeve to take the machine. And he's like, oh, don't worry, we clean the machine like constantly. And I'm like, no, I don't want your cleaning crap on my hands. He's like, do you want some hand sanitizer? He didn't clearly hear me. I'm like, no, you're not getting it. I don't want any shit. Your stuff is killing me. It's going to kill me. I like dirt and healthy germs and bad germs and all germs. God will take care of it. I don't need your crap all over me. Oh, You know, he didn't understand that at all. But not everybody does understand the Seamus. Anyway, hope everybody has a good night. I probably should try and maybe get a little sleep. We'll see. Take good care of one another, and God bless everybody.